The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today. RTT and Some Studios presents Ken and Chris's annual Birthday Bash on Saturday, February 22nd at Faces Brewing Company, Malden, Massachusetts, featuring live music from KCUF. With special guests Megan from Work and MK Naomi. Be sure to be at Faces Brewing Company in Malden, Mass, Saturday, February 22nd for Ken and Chris's annual Birthday Bash. Doors at 8 p.m., $10 cover.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hello, everybody. Today, our guest is Red Schomburg of Red Eyed Photography. Red is an amazing photographer in the Boston area, from weddings to shows, creative photo shots, the nines. Make sure you head to the website and check it out. This was an awesome conversation. This thing went from well, actually, we started with like being neurodivergent to ADHD to politics and photography and everything else. And it was an awesome conversation. And I can't wait for you guys to hear it. This is episode 321 of the Struggling Artist Podcast, Struggling with Red Eyed Photography. Yeah, you've been on my list of contacts, for a while. And Aria's actually hit me up twice about getting a hold of you. And I'm like, yes, Red's on the list.
Oh, my goodness. That is so Aria. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, we've met a couple times now, right? We've met a few times. And I've seen you out there, obviously, you snapping shots and everything. And
I'm hard to miss. I got the red hair.
Is that the lingo? Snapping shots? Is that?
It's whatever you want it to be,
But one of the, we follow each other on social media and everything, and you do a lot of things that I feel like are worthy to showcase, right? So, so here we are. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. I've done radio before, but I've never done a podcast, so this is really cool.
Yeah, so I think I do podcasts because I was a radio enthusiast growing up.
I see that. Yeah, I see
and
that.
I didn't get a chance to get into radio, so.
This is a good time to get in though, because it's just like the radio, but if you're like me and you have ADHD, this must be a godsend, because God forbid you go off on a 20-minute tangent.
I know.
Just, come back in. That's the way I think.
That's how the show goes, actually.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's the good part. I don't know.
Yeah. So, let me first, so you do photography in all different, I don't know, what would you call it? Like subjects?
Yeah, I think because I've been doing a lot of social media marketing, a lot of photographers call it niches. What's your niche? Oh, I'm a wedding photographer. Oh, I'm an event photographer. And I'm a photographer.
Yeah. When did you start?
I started a long time ago. So I've been doing photography since I was like 17, 18. And it came about because I was like 16 and like a junior in high school. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I had no money. And like my parents were like in and out. And through a series of events, I got a camera. I got my Nikon. And I started shooting for about a year. And I was completely self-taught. And I was like, I love this. And it was so great. And like when I was a teenager, I spent so much I had friends, but I spent so much time by myself because I was neurodivergent, but I didn't know it yet. And my brain functioned a little differently. And I had some stuff going on at home. And I needed a creative outlet. And I really needed a creative outlet that was like my creative outlet because like everybody around me did music and I've always gotten so much out of music, but there was just like something about music where it was so intertwined with like the other like facets of my life that I was like, I need something. And photography just showed up and I was like, I love this because I spent so much time in Boston. I grew up in Boston. I went to school in Boston and I would walk around all the time. I would just like, create time before I had to go home, like after school or whatever, or just like give myself some space. And when like the camera showed up, I was just like taking pictures of people and with like the things I walked by every day and the sites in Boston. And it was so cathartic. And I ended up putting together a portfolio because I was like, F it, and I sent it to like 8 art schools and I got into all of them.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, I can do this. So I ended up going to a school and I went to a new school in New York City for a year for photography, which was really cool. And then I ran out of money, moved back to Boston and started bartending. So that's sort of where that came about.
That is a tale for so many people.
It's so real. It is so real. I left Boston for that year. I went to New York City and I was like, I'm an artist. I don't fit in with these Boston people, like blah, blah, blah. And then I lived in New York City for a year and I was like, I can't do this. I have to go back home and be a townie. Like it's such a different world.
If, it's to be a townie in Boston though, it's not that bad,
It's not, the older I get too, the more I sink into that like identification.
Yeah. So like, cause like, I know, like I grew up in a small town and like being a townie there sucked. And like, I started becoming one before I left and I was like, I can't. And now there's nothing wrong with it. It just wasn't for me. You know what I mean? Like,
I think too, it's like, I think it's okay to be a townie if you get out of your like comfort zone for a little while. Like to come back and to be like, oh, I have a hometown pride is different to be like, I have a hometown pride because I know nothing else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I absolutely get that. Yeah. So I gotta ask something because like I'm not the smartest of people, right? Can you explain like what neurodivergent means? Because
yes, and that's a great question because this is the second time somebody stopped me and be like, "What the F are you talking about?" And I'm like,
I've heard the term and I've heard like and I've seen like I've been given examples, but like
totally.
I always feel like it's not explained, and I'm somebody that needs like.
That straightforward explanation. Because that's what I need. Because I'm neurodivergent.
Okay.
So neurodivergent is a really great umbrella term. I talk about neurodivergent the way I talk about queer because I think queer is really confusing for a lot of people for good reason. It's an umbrella term and it encompasses a lot of things that either can be like a word like autism or ADHD that we know what it is. Not everybody has the same idea about what autism and ADHD are. So like I have autism and ADHD. To tell certain people I have autism and ADHD, I swear to God, ADHD, nobody ever questions that I have ADHD. I'm like the vision of ADHD, right? But with autism, I swear to God, people will look me in the eye and be like, no, you don't. And it's like, you have a different idea of what autism might be than how, I did too, which is how I didn't know it for so long. But really neurodivergent is just an umbrella term that means your brain functions a little differently. You might have like a developmental disorder, like ADHD or autism. Maybe you are like a bipolar, maybe not a bipolar, you have bipolar, or like borderline personality disorder. And these are a little different than like a depression or an anxiety. These are things that affect the way your brain like functions overall. It affects like, I'm not a doctor clearly, but like it affects the way you think. It affects the way you talk. It affects the way you sort of interact with life. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's making more sense for me.
Okay, good. Okay,
like,
very, very
there's
good.
A lot
my
of
stepmother
things.
stopped me and was like, "What is neurodivergent?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, true. That's a big word."
Yeah. So like, it's a lot of things because there's a lot of things in that I do in my life that like people have said that, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like, you know what I mean? True. So because at the end, like, I don't know. So when I was like finally like diagnosed with like PTSD and all this stuff, like my doctor was like, they were kind of shocked on how like I was like, okay. you know?
Yeah.
Because they were like I'm like, well, I've been dealing with this my whole life. Like just because you put a name to it didn't change anything. I know what I've been dealing with, you know. So it's like so like when people say that to me about the little things that I do, and I'm like, I don't know, I you know, and I don't try to like brush it off, but like. For me, like I'm still me, and I always am. Like when people ask me, think like, you know, well, are you this, you're that? I'm just Trev. Like I just do, I just do what I do, and like if it, you know, and it doesn't affect you, so you know, so leave it alone.
I think people deal with it differently. Like I will say, Trev, everybody in my circle is either gay or neurodivergent. So like you're creeping in that circle. I'm just saying, but like. But like I think it's whatever you want it to be. Like for me, because I am autistic, but you can't really see it until you start to talk to me, and you're like, you have a lot of weird interests that you know a lot about. Like it's really helpful to have the word autism because I can communicate to people, hey, I have ADHD, I cannot sit still, and that's really helpful for me because people are like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like go for a walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I have ADHD as well, and like. What people don't get about ADHD is like it's not always about not being able to pay attention, right? Like I hyperfixate to an obsession to almost, and then people are like, oh, you must be OCD. I'm like, no,
nope,
not.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, you know.
Right.
So like I'm always having to like explain that aspect because like if it wasn't honestly, I started medication when I was 35.
Good for you.
It made my life so much better. And then I lost my good insurance, and they didn't want to give it to me anymore, you know. So, but we're back in insurance world. You know what I mean?
Good for you. So, that's a whole other podcast episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's for me. Like I'm always trying to like, and I think a lot of the stuff that I do, like it makes sense. Like I'm, and I have to stay busy. I can't.
Yes.
The moment I stop, my brain starts to move, and I don't like it. I'm reliving the greatest hits of every fuck up I've ever had. You know?
Oh, every single night. It's like the previews to your dreams. They're just like, do you remember this thing you did in the 8th grade that was horrible and you'll never forget about?
Yeah, I remember right before I started medication for ADHD, I went to a meeting at work, and they moved all like these tables to like form this like it was a rectangle. They said square, but it was a rectangle.
But it was a rectangle.
And it reminded me of 2nd grade Mrs. Dunn's class, and she moved all the desks like that. And then all of a sudden, the meeting was over. I blanked the entire meeting out because
you were somewhere else. Yeah.
So it's wild. It's weird because like I've always I'm tired of like. Film industry, like they always painted mental health in such a bad light, and it's easy to do the crazy, you know, like and then like I thought it went away, but now they, you know, like that movie The Joker, like it was just third podcast episode we could talk about The Joker because I got some thoughts about that movie. I just think it's like why are we doing this? It's 2025. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
But yeah, so I'm sorry. We just went off on a little.
We went off on an ADHD tangent. Yeah,
they're just side quests. You know what I mean?
Side quests. Yes.
But so I mean, a lot of the things with like I said, your photography is phenomenal. Like I hate pictures of myself, and you have the only picture I've ever liked of myself.
That's my favorite.
You took a picture of me when I was emceeing the Coffin Salesman show, and like I was like, okay, I like that picture.
Oh my god! Oh, my heart is so full right now. That's my favorite. Awesome.
So you started young, started in high school, and then it just clicked. It just clicked for you right away. Yeah. That's awesome. My aunt was I guess she still is a photographer. She doesn't practice it as much anymore, but she started to like film, and I think she didn't switch to digital until like 2007 or 8.
Sure. That makes sense.
Because she was just like, nah, this is what I know, But
she's OG, yeah.
So I remember she had this photo, and I don't know if she like set up the camera to take it or what, but I think she was working at like a haunt or at a play, and it was like her, and she had like this white dress, and there was like an older person sitting in a chair with a suit, and she had like this knife, and it scared the hell out of me growing up.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if she set it up or if that was someone took the picture of her, but it was like It was like a huge photo. It was in this album, and like it terrified me.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I don't love that you were terrified, but I love that. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. So like I've always had that little thing about photography. Like I was like, yeah, my aunt did that. And then my ex-wife, she was a photographer too, and she took a lot.
Okay.
She had a picture. She took a picture of the Boston Science Museum.
Yeah.
And it ended up getting in like books and magazines and
no way.
Because the way she took it reflected off the water, and like, it was a perfect picture either way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just never, for me though, I just didn't have, I don't think I have the patience.
It's a different, yeah. It's, I don't think of myself as a patient person either. Do you know what I think helps, Trev? Honest to God, is the hyperfixation. It's huge for me in photography, because I'll find, like, if I go and shoot East Boston a lot because I'm here, and Pierce Park is just like the most beautiful park in Boston. So I'm down there effing all the time, and I recently I had this one idea for this shot that I really, really wanted to get. Very specific shot for whatever reason, and I spent like, I couldn't even tell you how much time I spent on it, because I was so focused on getting it that I was just like, and sort of, it reminds me of what you were talking about earlier, is you kind of like lose all concept of time space when you do it. You know what I mean? So like, I think of myself as an impatient person that like, it should drive me crazy, but that like persistence to want the outcome, I think kind of overrides that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It does make sense. So I have a hard time with, I with the record club, like I try to take pictures of records, and like I have the worst time. I have the worst time. And
it's
like
harder than you think it is. It really is.
It's so hard. And like, I'm standing over it and I'm like, and it's always like, I must take 100 pictures to get one good one.
Absolutely.
And, and I'm just like, this is like, and then I just mess around with the I don't know. The filters
you must.
to get it to where it needs to be. But I'm like, I couldn't do this.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I have a lot of pictures in Lightroom and Photoshop that are probably great pictures, but I'm like, I haven't even gone through them, because the especially when you have like the digital camera, you take 800 pictures in 2.5 minutes. You know what I mean? And then you have to go back and you're like, oh my God, I took 800 pictures in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. So when did you decide that you wanted to do this as your own business, and like you didn't want to like shoot for a magazine or anything like that?
I mean, I still think I do want to shoot for a magazine or something. I think I just like, this is like a horrible way to phrase it, but it's the only way that's true, is like, I like myself now, and I didn't like myself for a long period of time. And if I didn't like myself, I didn't believe that I could do anything. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I do. Trust me.
I think this hits home for a lot of creatives. I have so many friends that are creatives and musicians, and I'm really glad that it hits home. I'm glad, I don't know, but
it feels good not to feel alone about something like that. You know what I mean?
It really does. And like, after coming out of art school and then I moved home, a lot happened in my life. Like I said, I was bartending. I lost both my parents in a really tragic way, within a year of each other when I was 21, 22. So like that had a little bit of an effect. And like, my brother was in the military. And so I just like, we went through a lot, and I was so unsure of myself. I was an alcoholic, like a practicing alcoholic for so long. I'm sober now, thank God. But just like all of those things together, like I had to just move through in my life. And I think I just had to like get a new sense of purpose. You know what I mean? I was so discouraged. I was so like, I can't do this. And even if I can do this, it doesn't matter, because like the world is bad and art world is bad, just all of these things. So like this slow process of like building myself back up, being like, it's okay to express yourself. And also like, if it's bad, it doesn't matter. Like I've never been better at my art since like taking off the pressure to be the best. And like that pressure like still exists a lot, and it's still something that I deal with a lot. But trying to shirk off that, just like if you like it, if you want to create it, if you feel good about it, it's good enough. You know what I mean? Just like
yeah, no, you sound just like me.
Yay!
Like I used to write for the Perfect Draft, and like that, you never finish anything doing that.
You never get anything done ever. I would never get anything done. It's
I would just reread the same 20 pages over and over and like changing.
Yes.
Yeah. It was crazy. And that's, and again, I'd get discouraged from reading fantastic authors. Like I would be like, I'm never going to be Henry Miller. Why do I have to be there? You know,
why
what
would
I mean?
even try?
Right? Yeah. Why do I, what am I like? Because like, and I didn't understand, like, you could still write the style. I write a lot like direct, right? And like, there is a place for it. Like I'm like, I can't be as poetic as these guys. Like, you know, that could be why I like them so much. Cause that's a big thing with me. With things that I enjoy the most are things that I can't do, like music. Ooh. I don't know how to play an instrument, but music does so much for me that like I'm like borderline obsessed with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like look at, you know, you see me out there and you see like this, you know, everything behind me. Like I am like, just like it's because I can't do it. I was the same way with sports. So I was terrible at baseball and I was pretty good at football.
I was also terrible at baseball. Baseball's my favorite sport.
It's my favorite sport. I used to watch, I would watch at least 100 games a year, not just like the Red Sox, like anything I could.
Bro, we chose baseball this year. Baseball's my favorite. And let me tell you, I did Little League for years because my mother thought I looked cute in that outfit. I was like, Mom, I keep getting hit in the face with the ball. Oh. I'd be crying out there. I'd be crying. And she's like, but you are so cute in a baseball cap. I'm like, you're right.
That's funny. Yeah. So like, I get it. It's just one of those things where, and that's the beauty of like this podcast, to be honest with you, is like being able to connect with people and have people who are listening. I know a lot of people that listen that are like, they are creatives themselves and they might not feel like they're good enough and everything. So like these are the conversations that we need to have, you know?
I think about that so much. I think about myself. I'm 31 now. I think about myself when I was 25 and I'm like, I wish I could talk to that person so badly and be like, you gonna be okay. Like you are gonna be okay.
I always say that. I wish I could go and talk to like 10-year-old Trev. Oh. And I'd just be like, just hang in there, dude.
You're gonna you're gonna figure it out. Like, take the pressure off.
Yeah. You know, so, all right. So you do all sorts of different types of stuff with your photography, and like you would still, do you freelance at all now for businesses, other businesses and stuff? Okay, so
I am freelance. So Red Eyed Photography is technically a freelance business. Oh my God, I've had to learn marketing. I never feel so much like an artist than when I talk about marketing. But I am I'm a sole proprietorship, which just means that it's just me. But the creative world is so fucked. Like, it's so set up to make you fail. And I'm sure you deal with this with music. But everything is sort of built off of like an Uber-ish model now, where you have to do so much for like everything is like you're a contractor. So like it's so hard to get a staff photographer position. It's so hard to even get paid for your work because the industry as a model is like designed for freelancers to pay you as little as possible to get as much free work as possible. So that's really what I'm dealing with right now, is trying to I want to stay independent, especially because if I ever do like political work and stuff, I don't want to be hindered by like an organization. But also, how do you get it out there like that? You know what I mean? So that's sort of the struggle.
Yeah. Now, do you put like, is there anything that you like prefer to shoot over any other thing, or is it just kind of like however you feel when you're doing it?
I think it's a little column A, a little column B. If I had my way, if I could shoot whatever I wanted to, I would just do the weird shit. Like I would do.
I'm looking at a picture of yours. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, cut me off. Do it.
And it's spooky and it's weird, and I don't know. It was like a Happy Holidays photo.
Oh yeah. I'm like the dead guy. Yeah.
Where was that? Speaking
That's
of
the Salem Night Fair.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense. That's my neighbor.
I was like, what is that? That's what reminded me of my aunt's photo.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to
keep you up at night. That's the shit I would do. I would do two things. I would do creative shit like that. Like I keep telling Aria, I was like, I want to dump blood all over you. Like we're going to get there. And then I would do, what I originally wanted to do when I went to school is like, I wanted to be like a wartime correspondent, which is a lot. And there's so much you could dig into there. But I think at some point I want to be like a photojournalist. But thinking about photojournalism is so weird. Like I had this conversation with Matt last night about like the LA fires. One of my friends lives in LA. They're fine. But like I have been thinking about it. And like the first instinct as like a journalist or a photojournalist is like I get flight passes because my brother's an airline pilot. So I'm like, I could just go out to California and shoot a bunch of the pictures and they'd be really great pictures. And then I could sell them to the Boston Globe and like da-da-da-da-da. And then you get the second, redeeming thought that's like, maybe I shouldn't be focused on capitalizing off of people's pain. Right.
Yeah.
So that's,
there's a fine line, right? It's a fine line. And
it's a fine line and it's hard to walk that line. So I think if I could do anything, I would just do the creative stuff because that I at least have the idea for. No doubt. You know what's fun? I watched this movie recently, and it's kind of scary because it hits home pretty good. It's called Civil War, and it's about a war journalist. And like there's a civil there's a civil war in our country, and they're taking these photos, and like this person who wants to be her. This other girl wants to be that photographer, so she like hitches a ride with them and like is following them, and then it was a pretty like, and you kind of knew what was going to happen, and it was like kind of just a negative kind of, I don't know, it's just like, but like it's those like I feel like it's needed, right? There's still that side of journalism still needed, like, it's
and
so
if you
hard.
if you can do it and not like play aside, like you got to be able to be like dead center with everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm
and
sure
it's hard too because of just like the industry that we're in too. And it's like, even if you take pictures that are neutral or that you have like a neutral approach to, you have no idea what your organization is going to, like the story they're going to attach to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Then there's so much in the media today. Like you can't, there's no way to see who's lying and who's not. It sucks. It just sucks.
Yeah. It's hard too. And it's just not something I want to deal with again. I think it's if I can get around it, I will.
No doubt. No, yes. That's your creative stuff is awesome. So
thank you.
So now do you still 10 bar?
Hell no. I would throw myself off the Tobin Bridge, but that's not nice. No, I started doing this photography full time when I left. What is it? 2025. Oh my God. I stopped bartending at the end of 2022. So it's been a hot second.
So you've been doing this full time. Well, just staying busy, just keeping yourself busy.
I mean, I did some other stuff in there. I worked on like a political campaign, but technically 2024, I was photography business for the whole first year. So this it's real now.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now, I'm sorry. Cause like I said, we're going to go all over the place.
We're going to pop all over the place.
I saw that you got involved in some politics, and
I did.
You know what? The information you were sharing kind of opened my eyes to things that I didn't quite get at the time.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now, and the main thing was for the service worker, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The minimum wage and cause I didn't realize like when, like it's a problem. Like cause everywhere I was in the industry for a long time. Everywhere I ever worked, like if you didn't make enough, you got the minimum wage. You know what I mean?
That's wild. Yeah.
So
it just doesn't happen here like that. Like it's crazy.
That's strange. To me, it's weird that I made sure of it, but that's why. You know what I'm saying? Because like I had like a leadership role, so I was able to get in there and be like, all right, we got to make sure they're making this or they're making that, and because like I remember when I was younger, I didn't understand it because I didn't understand any of it because I didn't get it.
Right. And it's if something I learned from going through that political thing, it's like all of politics is constructed in a way to discourage you from participating. It's like if I could tell anybody about my experience from getting involved in politics for 6 months, especially with what's about to happen with the change of presidents and stuff, this new administration, everybody's worried, everybody's nervous or feeling some sort of way. And I had so many conversations with people where they're like, I am so sick of politics. I am not going to get involved. I'm just going to be in my community. And I get it. I totally get it. But I keep telling people, like, don't do that. Don't do that, because they're counting on you to do that. They are counting on the fact, whoever is making decisions, that you are not going to get involved, that you are going to be apathetic. Don't do that. Do yourself a favor. Don't let other people make decisions for you. Make decisions for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm 43 years old.
Hell yeah.
This past year was the first time I ever voted.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Because like I was of that like thing. Like, I don't want anything to do. I hate all politics. I hate the government.
Totally.
I hate both sides. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And then like I just, but like after the first Trump administration, like I'm like, oh man, this is not good. And they're not giving, they don't like, as far as like our government within the country, like the country's government, like the federal government, like they don't give us anything. They don't give us any options. The good stuff they want, the bad stuff is in the fine print where you don't see it. You know what I mean? So like, I just like, I hate it all. But like this year I was like, this past year I was like, I need to vote. You know what I mean? And like,
good for you. That's awesome.
Like I did focus more on local.
Sure.
Than
Absolutely.
and that's something different for me, because like I've never really considered myself a local to anything. But now like I'm here and I like, and mushrooms were on the ballot. So that was
hell yeah. Hell yeah. There'll be round 2 for that. Don't you worry.
There'll be another time, so it did kind of like, I did really like look into things this time. And I will say like seeing your stuff about that, because at first, when I first heard about it, I'm like, no, that's going to screw the workers. And
that's what everybody thought. That's what I thought.
That's what they wanted us to think too. Right. So like, so I will say like seeing your post and diving into these articles that you would share on other people's posts and stuff that like that had their own opinions on it, and that is one thing. Like that made me like, okay, I'm looking into things. I'm learning more. So thank you for that. But
that's
the other
really
side of it, the other side of it too, and I'm going to give you all the props in the world for this, is you did not focus on fighting with anybody. You respected everybody's opinion and offered your own in return. And that's the way it should be.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we live in a world where that's not the case anymore, but that's how things should be discussed.
I think too, like, I don't want to be too self-deprecating after you gave me a compliment, but I'm Irish, so I must. It's like, I spent so many years being so opinionated. And at some point I kind of think like I was right. But what does it fucking matter if nobody wants to listen to you talk or hear your opinions, right? Like you're so full of yourself. I think what you said about like voting more about local politics, I think is the sauce, because like that's what will make you want to do this stuff. Like being involved in local politics made me want to talk to my neighbors. And I realized that like if I'm going to talk to my neighbors, I can't be like effing disrespectful to my East Boston neighbors. They will destroy me, and for good reason. But yeah, I really, really appreciate that feedback, because like after the campaign, I was feeling real sad. Yeah. But I also am now feeling, especially with my creative arts, like, no, we're not done. We're here.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. No, yeah, because like, and again, and the compliment, like to say, like, like what I'm saying, like your approach to, like, you are not going to change someone's mind by calling them an asshole, right?
So
and like,
true. So
and
true.
I try to explain that to people, and they're just like, they're so, and I'm talking people on like kind of both sides of the spectrum, totally. And like they don't want to hear it, and I'm like, whatever, like don't say anything, because now you're just bothering me. You know what I mean? Like once I get like I don't want to be like you guys. Like it's bugging me that you guys don't know how to talk to each other. So just don't talk at all. Because you're never gonna get anywhere. Right. Just post your stuff here, you post your stuff there, and leave each other alone. Because all you guys are doing, like, you're never gonna change someone's opinion by yelling and screaming. And I'm a big loud guy, so I understand. I can tell you this, like when I'm talking to people, like I use my inside voice. Yeah, and I'm like trying to like put, I'm trying to get my point across to them. Because if the moment I get it this loud, people think, oh my God, he's mad, he's gonna do something crazy. You know what I mean? They're like, no, we're gonna talk like this.
I don't have that like volume problem. I have that face problem. Because my face.
Yeah, that's my face too.
I'm gonna destroy you, right? So I have to do so much work to soften my face when I talk to people to be like, I am not mad at you.
Yeah, I do that a lot because, like, again, I'm 6'5", I'm 400 pounds, I'm a huge dude.
6'5", you're a big dude.
Yeah. So like, I'm always like, I always have to try to make people. I want to make everyone feel comfortable around me, like, because I don't want them to like have like a weird, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
I'm always like kind of like self-conscious about like, is someone doing something for me because they want to or because they're terrified? Because like, yeah, and I get like that because like I just don't think like some people are just like let me just do this thing for him because you know he's kind of scary looking or whatever. And I'm not though. I don't.
You're not though.
Yeah, thank you.
No offense.
Yeah, well, you've known me, right? So that's the cool part, right? When you when people get to know me, they're like, oh yeah, he's a nice guy. But yeah. So I'm always like, so that's why I can see that with politics. I can like don't. You just have to. You don't even have to wear the kid gloves. You don't have to be so aggressive that like you're going to turn the other person off, right? You don't have to do what religion does, you know? Right? Like they're just so aggressive, like it's like, all right, get away from me. Get away from me. Yeah. So no, you did a great, and this is, you know, just some schmuck out here in Central Mass. I think I followed what was going on and you did it. You got me engaged in it. So
that's fucking awesome. I tell you, like so many, a bunch of people have told me that, which makes my heart, it makes me feel like I did something, which I think is really, really great. And I really, really appreciate you telling me that.
Now, we need more Reds in the world. We need people.
I don't know if that's true, but I love it.
I'm serious because like, all right, we're going to go there. So people that like protested voting because of what's going on in Gaza, look where it got us.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really hard too, but like this conversation about Gaza, like I think is so hard for people to have. Right. And I've tried to have it like a million times, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's one of the things I was thinking about too with like the Yes on 5 campaign that you can't discount, no matter if it's right or wrong. People have really strong emotions attached to this.
Very strong, yes.
Really strong, and you cannot discount that. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. It doesn't matter how the media feels about it. People feel a certain way, and you have to, like, honor and acknowledge that. You know what I mean? And it's not something that everybody's at. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think we just need more of that, like compassion with you have to, and I hate saying that. Like I have a tipping point just like everyone else, right? Yeah, especially when it comes to certain people's beliefs and everything. And like, I am very zero tolerance with things. Totally.
To the point where maybe I should back off sometimes because I go a little too overboard, but I don't just like, but like if someone's just like, well, like if somebody voted for Trump because they wanted their groceries lower, okay, you're selfish. I can deal with that. You know, if you did it because you're a Republican and that's what you do, all right, you're ignorant. I can deal with that. But when you're doing it because his beliefs align with yours, that's when I step in. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like and like I may not have tried to chase a guy on the highway for cutting me off because he had a Trump sticker.
Videos that we should have, videos that we deserve.
So my whole goal was to make the guy feel uncomfortable, and I did.
Awesome. So, good for you.
Now, with that said, I was driving a Nissan Rogue with a 4-cylinder engine, and he was driving like a huge truck with a Hemi. So he got away from me pretty quick, and there was no way I was going to catch him. But I proved what I wanted to do. I love
it. It's not correct. It's so not correct.
Correct.
I love it.
Yes. So it's not always. I don't always pick the right path, I guess, to go down. Nope. But I do try to. Right. I do try to like, and it has nothing to do with like me being one side or the other. It just has to do with this person will never learn if we don't teach them. And you don't,
or if we don't even have this conversation, like we're so like in tune to not, even if you get in a fight with someone, like I almost think it's better to get in like an argument with someone than to just ignore each other. Like at least like get the lines of communication open. Chase a guy down the highway. I don't know.
No doubt. So and there's also like, so like I had a hard time with school growing up and stuff like that. And a lot of it was because of like the way they taught. Like I was a troubled kid. So they were like, you know, who knows? I was probably neurodivergent, right? So
straight up.
So like they didn't know that then, so they were just like, "You're a little asshole," you know what I mean? So they didn't teach me. My learning capabilities were limited because of the what they were doing, and I feel like with the same thing with politics. Like if we're gonna if we just only go this one way and not try to get a solution out of this thing, then that's where we're gonna be. You know what I mean?
Now, I think the thing I look forward to is like if you look at like Sean O'Brien, which is like the leader of the Teamsters that I love, straight out of Seatown. Like he has been a figure that keeps popping up, and people of my life have been bringing him up to me, and I'm always like, that's so interesting. Is it because he's a Boston guy? And there's a lot of reasons, but I think one of the things he does really well kind of brings me back to like Bernie Sanders, where he's like, I don't pick sides, like I pick issues. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I want to bring that back. I want to be like, we're not doing like hard left, hard right, hard red, hard blue all the time. We're doing like, we're talking about issues. Like we're talking about where we can align. You know what I'm saying?
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, that should definitely, for sure. Yeah. So you've been around you said you've been involved in the music world with all your friends that, you know, create and everything for a long time. Was it just natural to be able to shoot them like playing out and stuff like that?
That's how I learned how to do photography, baby. Yeah? I swear to God, nothing taught me better than shooting at punk shows. And I was going anyway, you know, like I've been going to punk shows in Boston since I was like a teenager. I dress like I'm a musician, so all my friends are musicians. Like I've been watched, like, you know, my partner and all my friends like grow up in these bands. I've spent so much time in basements and shit. And so I always just like brought my camera. And like, as I'm learning, like even today, as I'm doing like new niches in photography, there's got to be no better way to learn how to shoot because you get everything, right? Like I did like a wedding shoot recently. And we were shooting outside during a snowstorm. And I was like, okay, just for this picture, you have to take your coats off. Like, I know it's going to be cold, but like, and they were like, okay, like, what do we do though? And I was like, oh, I'll hold them. So like I had 2 pea coats in my hand. And then I had like my camera with like the full setup and I was shooting. And somebody was like, how could you do that? Like, that's a lot with 2 hands. And I'm like, to be completely honest, I used to have a beer in this hand and I used to shoot bands. And it's the same, like, it sounds stupid, but it's the same epic skill set. Yeah. And there's so much there. Like, if you can't use a flash, like so often you can't use a flash at a show. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't. You know, you have to learn how to work in low light conditions. You have to learn how to, you know, what settings to use. You have to learn what angles to get. You have to learn when to move. You have to learn where you should, you know, all of this stuff that comes together to make a photograph hones really well if you shoot at local shows.
You know, it's so funny that at the Coffin Salesman show, I saw you taking pictures like twice. And really? you took a lot of pictures, so you just know where to go. Like, yeah, that's awesome. I didn't even know you took a picture of me until I saw.
Honestly, my claim to fame, especially because I've been shooting at shows for so long, is like I can tell when somebody's new to it, and it's fine because I used to be the same way. But it's like you could tell somebody is up there like in front the whole time, and they shoot way too many pictures, and like blah 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 blah. I think my claim to fame, like as an expert, was like I want to be in the back. And I want to look so apathetic, and then once in a while, like you don't even know.
I just want to look apathetic. Yeah. That's awesome. Do you think people should start there? Like if you could shoot if you can shoot at a show, then you can do anything kind of thing? I
kind of do. I mean, I kind of want to encourage people to go to local shows anyway, and like
right.
Get there, dude. But like, why not? Like, I see so many everybody wants to be a concert photographer. Again, I get it. Everybody wants to shoot for like Chappell Roan. Everybody wants to shoot for Kendrick. I want to shoot for Kendrick. But you have to get there somehow. And B, I'm just going to say it. The shots that you get at those big shows are manufactured, and they're supposed to be manufactured. They've got $zillion of lighting and choreography, and you'll get some effing great shots. But if you want the real deal, you want like a a band like playing, like you got to go to the local show. You got to, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So let me ask you this with photography. When you're say we'll go with like, just overall, is it most important is it your angle, your lighting, or like the editing after?
The editing is really important, but it's probably less important or important in a different way than most people think it is. I think especially with the rise of AI, I think people really have this idea that you can go in Photoshop and just fix everything. It does not work like that. I wish it did. It does not work like that. But Photoshop, I mean, all of these things like your post-processing skills are so important. But so like any expert photographer will tell you is like you have to get it in the shot first. You cannot fix it after. You can fix little things, but you have to get it in the shot first. So I think when you're doing photo, it's really just about nailing the exposure triangle, right? So there's ISO, there's your sensitivity to lighting, there's your aperture, which is how much your lens opens, and then there's your shutter speed, which is just the time. And between just those three settings, that's how you make all of your photos, right? So it's really, really, I think, learning how to nail those settings, learning what each of them means, how they differentiate your shots, and how can I get to a place where I can think of those settings really quickly, put them together, and then execute, right?
Yeah. Now, how important is the actual camera and like the lenses that you use? Like,
so important.
Is it? Yeah. So you got to like kind of get the better. I mean, if you're starting out low, can you go like I've seen like video on like an iPhone that looked like it was.
It looks incredible. It looks incredible. Yeah. You absolutely can start with any effing camera. You really, really can. And like if you wanna, I don't have a film camera near me. If you want to be legit about it, get like a 35 millimeter camera. They used to be really cheap, and then people caught on to it, and I think they're less cheap now. Yeah.
It's vintage or whatever now.
It's antique, and now like people like the hipsters have started going into like antique shops and buying them, and I'm like, damn it! Yeah. You know how many free cameras I got from like people in the North End when I was starting? It was divine. But I digress. But I think like the most important thing is the lens. Generally, is the lens is what makes the most difference when you start getting into like professional echelons. But really, like though the camera does make a difference. You could take a shot on like a beginner model camera. If you know what you're doing, that's going to be better than, a concert photographer that doesn't know what they're doing. Like the artistry really does come out. And it's not until you get in sort of the upper echelons of your own professionalism that you kind of have to be like, okay, now I have to upgrade my gear because it like matches with what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I want to kind of change gears a little bit and talk about the business itself. Ooh. You recently rebranded?
I did.
Yeah. Was it scary?
Yes.
Yeah.
I also was so psyched about Ginger Snaps because I came up with it when I was bartending. I like rolled into the bar one day for all my regulars, and I was like, I thought of the best name. All of my regulars at the bar thought it was the best name. My mother-in-law thought it was the best name. My family thought it was the best name. I thought it was the best name. Turns out that like 500 other photographers nationwide have already had this idea. They were like, wow, Ginger Snaps is really clever. I'm like, damn it, I was 501. So it was too much there's too much Ginger Snaps. There's so many Ginger Snaps.
Yeah.
Also, too, I feel like red eye works better just because my stuff is kind of creepy. And Ginger Snaps was a little cute. And then maybe you would see like my dead person picture and be like, that doesn't quite fit together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could.
It could.
There's a werewolf movie called Ginger Snaps, right? So
what is that?
There's a werewolf movie called Ginger Snaps.
That's probably fucking true. Like there's everything called Ginger Snaps.
Yeah. So when you I've had a small businesses and stuff like that. So like rebranding, hell, just me switching from like, okay, I'm going to give up working for myself and go work for a company doing something completely different was scary as hell.
Yeah.
So it was logical because of the name, right? But like, was it an easy transition? Did you kind of have to get back out there and put yourself out there as this now instead of that?
I think it wasn't as hard of a transition as it could have been, just because I have only started to get established, and most of the photo that I've done up until this point has been under my own name, like Red. So I think I was just switching names that still had Ren in it. People could still recognize that it's me. I think the only place that I had trouble was I had to change my email. And for some reason, the most basic of like internet technologies, the email address just messes with me. So for some reason, I'm still like changing over my mailing address, but it was really pretty easy.
Yeah.
And like the social media algorithm is so interesting, but so basic in so many ways. And it's, once I changed my name to include photo, just like in my username on Facebook and Instagram, my like engagement for photography went up. So it all worked out, I guess.
That's interesting, yeah.
It's just not as clever as a name, which is too bad.
I like it. It's a good name, though. It's a good name. So I was on your website today, and I want to say I really liked the first thing I saw was it says dynamic creative photographer, unparalleled visual storyteller.
Yeah, it's a bold statement.
I like that though. I like that. And I think I was going through your photos. You do tell a story with a photo. Okay. How do you do that? How does it become between a photo and then like you're telling something, like you're telling a story through it? Like what do you have to like kind of, because that's the creative part of this, right? So how do you do that?
I think I was thinking about this recently. I think a lot of it comes from my own communication issues, which sounds weird, but like for so long, I didn't know how to talk to people. Like when I was a kid, I didn't talk. Like I was that kind of kid. Mm-hmm. And like especially when I was starting photography, I didn't know how to communicate with people. I knew I had like storytelling in me. I come from an Irish family of excellent storytellers. Like there is something in our culture. We are excellent storytellers, right? But I just had such a hard time communicating with people, and I couldn't put what I wanted to say out there. Yeah. I think photography has really bridged that gap for me, and it's sort of hard to analyze exactly what I am doing to tell that story. But I think I've realized I'm such a visual person that it's so much easier for me to communicate with pictures than talking like a human, I guess.
Yeah, so I was going to actually ask you that about it because you had said earlier about like socializing and communicating wasn't like always the best. Has it? So it's helped you. Doing photography has helped you being able to like socialize more and communicate more. And so like for me, I used to just drink because that was the only way you get me to
straight up.
And then we learned how bad that is, right?
It did not help. And every time I did it, I was like, this is going to help. And then it never did.
Yeah. Because I was the same way. And again, like I used to get really bad social anxiety. This is so funny. So I worked in bars most of my life.
Yep.
When I'm working, I'm fine.
Because you're a different character. It's like when I was behind the bar, I was confident. But you have like a level of separation there.
Mm-hmm. And I used to get really bad. So when we went out drinking, I would chew gum because it would help me control my breathing. And I would be way more confident. I would be way more social. And like, isn't that weird?
Yes, but it makes sense.
Yeah, so like that's what I would do, and if I wanted to like socialize or whatever. But like then there's times where like I go to the bar, I don't want to talk to anybody. Yep. I'm just gonna just drink and just sit at the bar and just drink and drink and drink and So I mean those days are past me. But I mean I guess I still drink, but like. Not
you have
like,
a different relationship with it though. Like I'm sober now, but I have so many friends who aren't sober who are like, I don't drink to not feel anymore, and I'm like, that's it. That's all it is, Yeah. So I think from doing the podcast, it's definitely helped me with like being social. I'm going out more. I go out more. I'd like to go out this year. I want to go out even more to like shows and stuff like that. But it's helped me. It's helped me quite a bit. Honestly, when I relaunched this thing, I was in Pittsburgh and it was right before COVID started. So this was my only like lifeline to talk to people. Oh my God.
It was a really weird time.
Yes. Thank God you had a podcast during that time though. Like that's like a line into the outside world.
And the closest person was 500 miles away that I knew. Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. It was totally wild. Fine. Yeah. So it helps you. It's helped you like kind of become social and like I hate using the phrase like get you out of your shell or whatever, but
but it's true.
Yeah. I
think, but straight up, honestly, I think nothing got me out of my shell more than bartending. Like a huge difference between when I started photography and then when I got back into it was 10 years of bartending, and my social skills are completely different because like you know, like you had a paycheck on the line. So like you better be likable. Yeah. Like you're not going to pay your bills. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there was a different Trev behind the bar. Like there was one place I worked where like on Thursdays I did that and I served because I was the only person there other than the cook. Mm-hmm. So like my regulars would be like, how come you don't talk to us like you talk to the people at the tables? I'm like, shut up.
I was exactly the same way. We didn't have waitresses, so you would just do everything. I'd be like, oh my God, how was your lunch? Everything great. And then you go up to one of your regulars and be like, I fucking hate you.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I ask everybody this who tends bar. Tell me what your superpower was as a bartender.
Ooh, that is such a good bartending question. My superpower was my optimism. And here's my secret to everything is I used to work at an Irish pub full of grumpy Cambridge regulars. Lots of men, not exclusively men, but like lots of just like these really like crotchety seeming types coming in. And then I would bop onto the bar with like my monster and my continual optimism. And always like, oh my God, Kelly's here. She's gonna like do this and you're so annoying and they love it. They love it. They come back every single week to see me and my bubbly optimism. And you cannot tell me that they don't because they did everything. Yeah. And no matter how much people will be like, oh my God, you are so annoying. You are so much. You are such big energy. When I left the bar, like people will be like, where'd it go? You know what I mean? Like, where's our big bubbly energy? So big bubbly energy. That's basically power.
There you go. So mine was I had like a grumpy persona, but I called it grumpy with style because people like loved me for it until when I realized I needed out. I was like, I'm just being mean.
You're just
like
being mean to people.
Yeah. So I was like, I gotta stop because it took a turn. It took a turn when I was down south with it. So that's
good. Now, when we were bartending, we'd be like, people come in for abuse, and they do. People come in for you to be mean to them. That was like other bartenders would do, straight up.
Yeah. All right. Now here's the other one I always ask: what is the drink that people are going to see Red for?
My Manhattan.
Okay.
I was a bourbon bitch. I love me some whiskey and some bourbon. So I just made I like to drink them. Not anymore. But I made the sickest Manhattan. And so I'd have people come in and ask for my Manhattan.
I need to get everyone together who I've had on this podcast that tended bar at one point, and we should just make drinks for each other.
That would be awesome. That would be super fun. Somebody's going to be able to do like a non-alcoholic thing they can give me.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure. I know people that could. Yeah. That would. Yeah. That would be great. That'd be great. Red, this was a lot of fun.
This was really fun. I'm so glad
I want to have you back on because I think we can do so much more.
Yes.
We could go in so many different directions.
We could.
This was great. I'm excited that we had the chance to talk today. Can you tell people where to find you on social media, your website, all that stuff?
I would love to. So you can find me. I am Red Eyed Photography. I am at Red Eyed Photo. That's how do you spell it? EYED. It's Red Eyed Photo on Instagram. I believe on Facebook, if you go facebook.com/Red Eyed Photo, same thing. You can email me anytime. I'm hello@redeyedphoto.com. And I think that's it. Awesome. Or go to redeyedphoto.com. That would be the most direct way. Yes.
Most direct way. Thank you again. I can't wait to see you out there again at a show.
Yes, come to a show soon so I can see you and take more pictures of you.
You don't got to do that.
I will though. Like that's my thing.
Yeah, I know, when I'm not looking. Which. Oh, that was great. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you.
Trevor, such a pleasure. I'll see you next time.
All right, and that's the show. I want to thank Red again for being today's guest on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you will find links to Red's website as well as their Instagram. If you're in the Boston area and you need a photographer, I highly recommend you look into Red Eyed Photography. Thank you to Chris Chavez and Jeff Bousquet for being producers of this podcast. Give them a follow over on the Instagram. Chris is at 716 The Sound, and Jeff is at JRB Image. Thank you to State Line Records for being sponsors of the podcast. Thank you to people over at Patreon who's supporting us. Go see what we have going on over there. Patreon.com/podcast TSA. Check out the tiers. Check out what you get. There's tons of stuff always going on. There's so much content over there. Not always me either. I have I have other people step in too. You don't have to just hear my voice over there. Although I am on a lot of the shows that are over there. Sorry. Thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast, reaches out, texts, and all that jazz. I appreciate every single one of you. If you want to text the podcast or call and leave a message, you can do that by dialing 774-570-1552 into your cell phone, and then you can text us or leave us a voicemail. We will not play them or read them on the show unless you want us to. Just tell me don't read this and I won't read it. If you'd like to email, trev@thestrugglingartistpodcast.com is the email address you could use to get a hold of me, whether you're a band that wants to come on the show or someone who wants to, I don't know, give us grief about an episode or suggest a band. That the email is probably the best way to relay that part of this business. I don't know, whatever this is. Well, that's it for tonight, folks. We're gonna get out of here. We're gonna play the Loser Circle song. To the fellows in Loser Circle, thank you so much for allowing us to use The Great Illusion of Time off of your album Took Long Enough, which is available on vinyl. If you're a vinyl head, you can get it through our link tree. You can, because there's a link right to their Bandcamp where you can purchase that album. Highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite albums from Boston in the last 15 years. And until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.